Hello, Narnach here. Welcome to the start of a brand new series for Stellaris. Stellaris is a 4X grand strategy game made by Paradox Development Studios, who among other games also made Europa, Universalis 4 and Crusader Kings 2. It's very interesting. It launched about 4 hours ago. I started playing it at launch just to get a little bit of a feel for it, and now I think I'm ready to start a let's play and at least get through the early game for a bit. So we are going to be playing the Wulven Pack. We can actually go into the editor so I can show you all through all the things. So this is this is going to be episode 0. So just going to showcase the race creation, setting up the game, and then the actual gameplay is gonna be the next episode. But there's a lot of people who really like to see things like this. So let's go through all the options we have. So we start from top to bottom. So appearance, you can select your race. So you have mammals, which standard humans, some kind of monkey with a lot of eyes. You got a lot of creative things. There's actually not a lot of things that are recognizable. So you got the humans that are fairly recognizable. You got these fox-like. I think that's about as close as it gets to actual wolven. I don't even know how to describe this. This one looks pretty cool. It's a bit close to a zombie almost, with the half falling out or mole over there. So you got reptiles, all kinds of shapes and sizes. These looks pretty happy, like a big turtle. Avians, so that's birds and feathery things. Ooh, this one even has a space helmet, custom-made avian space helmet. Arthropods. So these are the tentacled bunch. And the insectoids, cockroaches, mollusks, that's the snails, and finally the fungoids, which are basically just all the plant-like things. So you got a lot of graphical options for creating your race. And now the portraits are animated, and for each of your characters you can actually just customize it. So you got the phenotypes, which selects different just models almost. Some variations. You got male, female for some gender, some races that there's a physical difference. You got different hairstyles. I think for humans, human males, for example, you got about 11 or so different hairstyles, including with beard, without beard. Color variations. Here you just cycle through a number of colors. Clothes. There's different outfits. So well, you can name your race, which is different from your empire, which we'll get into once we start playing. So we've got some randomization, singular, plural, and adjective, and there's even a handy button to generate the adjective based on your name. For if you're not really quite sure what an adjective is, then no, you just hit the button and it just works, and it will create grammatically correct things for you. You can select a list of names, and there are leader names, ship names, planet names, fleet names. You can have a prefix that all the ships will be prefixed with a certain name. And there's a whole bunch of lists that are pre-generated, and these are actually generated in a text file with a special markup format. So if you're familiar with modding Paradox games, then you will be able to find and edit this to your heart's content. And I figured I'm only gonna rename the leaders in game after people who have left nice comments on my YouTube videos. So I figured just get playing rather than modding. So next up, traits, which is where it gets interesting. So your race, it has defining characteristics which make it default from the generic bland, non-iterated races. Because now picking the graphics inherently doesn't actually do anything, as far as I understand. So for the Wulven Pack, I figured, these are... No, they're wolves, so they have a pack. They have a strong sense of communion. They are a bit feral, but that works to their advantage and to their disadvantage. So they are communal. They like to... they're happy in their group. They are strong, physically strong, because, well, they are wolves. Actually, they're more like werewolves. So that's... No, they're strong, but they walk upright. It's kind of in between. Rapid readers, because, well, they're wolves. And they are slow learners, because their feral nature sometimes gets in their way. So you can see these are green, so they are positive traits, and this is a red one, so it's a negative trait. So you start out with 2 points that you can spend, so you can always pick 2 positive traits, and after that you have to start making trade-offs. There's a bunch of interesting ones, and actually I would like to have had more points just to customize it even further. So there's things like agrarian, so you produce more food; thrifty, so you make more energy credits, which is like the in-game gold equivalent. So that's what you spend for maintenance and for making stuff. Minerals, which you use to build stuff. For industrious, you got intelligence, so your science output is just increased by 10%, which is pretty cool. Natural, engineers, physicists, and sociologists for the 3 branches of science that will generate more points. Extremely adaptive, so the habitability of worlds goes up, so it's easier to live in various places. Adaptive is just a weaker version that costs less points, because this costs 5 points. So you have to take this one with 3 additional negative traits in order to be able to even get it. And there's also a limit of 4 traits that you can have. So that's also something to keep in mind. Non-adaptive, which is the opposite, of course, of adaptive. Slow breeders, which is the opposite of the rapid breeders that I picked here. Talented, that means your leaders all start out with an extra skill level, so they are slightly more capable from the get-go. Quick learners means your leaders gain more experience, and as they level up from level 1 through to level 5, they have a chance of gaining extra traits. So if they learn quicker, they are going to spend more of their lifespan at level 5 if you do things correctly. And I did say lifespan because eventually your people will die, because all things that get born will eventually die. And there are actually some options like enduring and venerable, which will increase the lifespan of your leaders. So they will just last you a bit longer. So there's a whole bunch of options, and I figured this would be fitting. I figured conformist might also be interesting, just because now in the pack you adapt to whatever the alpha leader says you have to do. So the ruler, we just picked one. You can just generate some random names. Let's see, Homeworlds. This is an interesting bit. You can actually select what kind of worlds you want to start on, and as a result, the adjacent world types you will be able to colonize, but less optimally. And the further away you get from your optimal world type, the less hospitable it's going to be. And I think you can't even settle on the 2 that are furthest away. So if you have a continental world, that's like an Earth kind of world, just a bit balanced, bit okay. And adjacent to that, you got tropical worlds and ocean worlds, which is just pushing it to the extremes. Then you have desert worlds, and you got Arctic worlds, you got arid worlds, and you got tundra worlds. So we're just gonna settle for continental, which seems useful. You can name everything. City appearance. You don't really see this a lot except for just the portraits. You can make it look all kinds of fancy. So going with the werewolf kind of idea. So they're like humans, so they have a humanoid mammalian cities. Government and ethics. This actually decides quite a bit for your civilization. So you have this wheel here that defines all kinds of trait for your civilization. So for example, if you pick militarist, then there are some impacts, like your alliance influence cost is more expensive, so it's just more difficult to maintain alliances. On the other hand, you gain more influence from having rivalries with others. And of course, well, we are the wolf and we have rivalries, we duke it out. We also have a stronger army, and our population is actually happy during times of war. The opposite of that is pacifist. So they actually can have more embassies to just make more people friendly with them. They gain less influence from rivalries, so it's less rewarding for them. The army does less damage. On the other hand, they produce more food, and the people are unhappy during times of war. And you can even push it into the extremes. So you got regular pacifists and fanatic pacifists. And the fanatics, they get an extra embassy on top of the one they already got. They gain even less points from rivalries. The army is even weaker, but they gain even more food, and they got even less happiness during times of war. So these are opposites of each other. So another axis, you got spiritual and fanatic spiritual, and they are just very happy. And on the other hand, you got materialist and fanatic materialist, and they just produce a lot more scientific output. Then on this axis, you got individualist and fanatic individualist, which produce more energy. Energy is basically the money in the game, the energy credits. Also, they have less of an issue. They actually have a lot more issues with slavery, and because they're individualist, free-spirited, their ethics will diverge. So over time, people will start developing ideas of their own, and there's a larger chance of developing factions within your empire. The opposite of that, of course, are the collectivists. So those are the pack animals. They actually have less issues with slavery. They use less food because, well, they just do sharing, so there's less waste, I suppose. And the fanatic collectivists have zero problem with slavery. And then we are back to the spiritualist axis. So let's you got xenophobes, which are afraid of aliens and don't really mind enslaving them. And on the other hand, you've got xenophiles, which just have a negative to xenophobia, so they're less intimidated by opponents. So for the Wulven, I went with fanatic collectivists. They really, really like their pack, and they're militarists to a certain degree. It's the aggressive nature. And then the combination of your ethics, if you actually spend a less extreme one, you actually get an extra point that you could spend. So you could say, well, we will also take a materialist, for example, but I figured this was good. And the combination here will unlock you a government type. And depending on how your government works, that will give you other options like picking rulers or not picking rulers, or voting for certain people, or steering elections in certain directions. But in a pack, there's only one leader, and that is the alpha. And that means we are going with a military dictatorship. And when our ruler dies, then we select a new ruler. And as a reward for this military type, we have a naval capacity of plus 20%. So that means we can build a lot more ships. And each ruler can actually build an oversized ship. So my ship is bigger than yours. And their ships are cheaper to maintain. So a larger army, that's going to cost us less to maintain. So that seems very powerful. Other options would be, for example, a military junta, or a military republic, or theocratic republic. This is pretty cool. A divine mandate. You are just the god or the god's appointed ruler on the planet. And as a result, of course, slavery is not an issue. It's a bit like Egyptian pharaohs. You always have the option to go with excuse me, a despotic empire. So they will build an oversized military station, and they also don't really have a lot of problems with slavery. Get plutocratic oligarchies, indirect democracies. This is what's for example, the humans ruled by the United Nations. They will have an indirect democracy, so every 5 years you will have an election. And as a result, your leaders are a bit more skillful. But it also means you can only do this if you don't have the collectivist ethic or the fanatic collectivist ethic, and as a result we can't pick that. So military dictatorship fits very well for our style of rule. So then you got your empire name, that's going to be the Wulven Pack, which we will call the Wulven Pack, Wulven. Then your flag, you can customize it, so you can pick the background, you can pick different colors for that. There's different signals, signs that you can pick. But I figured the claw would be pretty nice for us. Starting weapons. So now it gets more towards the actual direct gameplay. What kind of weapons are we going to start with? Projectile weapons, missile weapons, or energy weapons? So missile weapons are long range. You literally shoot nuclear warheads at each other. They are long range, but they can be intercepted by point and defense systems. An alternative would be energy weapons. You just shoot laser beams at them, and that is more close to medium range, and this cuts through armor. Missile weapons just get stopped by everything, and you also have projectile weapons, which use electromagnetic catapults to accelerate projectiles towards their targets at blinding speeds. While somewhat limited in range, their kinetic energy and high rate of fire chew through shields with ease. And I figured projectile weapons, it feels like the most visceral of the weapon types. I mean, missiles are for players that just want to sit at range and just pelt their opponents with missiles until they stop falling, but we're Wulven. We don't use bow and arrow, we don't use guns, we get in there and we just tear them apart. So, missile weapons feels the most visceral for that. Energy weapons is also in the same range, but it's lasers, that doesn't feel wolfish. So, FTL methods. There's different ways of moving between star systems in the game. The warp travel is recommended for new players. And that means you can just generate a warp bubble and travel towards the nearest star system. And after a charge up time, you can travel to another system and another system and another system. And there's really no limit on how far you can go or where you can go. An alternative to that is hyperspace travel. In hyperspace travel, there are like interstellar road network, and you can only travel across the roads. It's a bit faster, but you are limited in where you can go. And finally, you have wormholes, where you can actually generate a wormhole from a wormhole station to just instantly travel between systems. But you always have to go via your wormhole stations. So I've only played with warp travel so far, and I only played one game so far, and I enjoyed that. So I think we're gonna stick with that. It seems fine, and it seems pretty straightforward. And I don't think the Wulven will be building space roads or punching holes through time-space. They just go. That seems the most good for them. And finally, ship design. So we've got mammalian ships, reptilian ships, avian ships, molluscoids, fungoids, and arthropodian ships. Well, we'll go with the mammals because, well, we are mammals. So just go back, and then we start our game. We start as the Wulven Pack. So we'll have a galaxy that is going to be medium-sized, 600 stars. It will be... Let's actually go for a 4-arm spiral. That seems interesting. 17 AI empires, of which 4 will be advanced starters. Difficulty is going to be normal, we will allow any kind of FTL. So we use the warp travel, but other races can use other means to travel around. And Iron Man means there's only going to be one save game ever. And if I screw up while recording or something, then I can't ever go back. So I'm not going to turn that one on. Also means I don't get a score for playing the game. But that's a trade-off. And that said, we're going to start. Okay. And this is where I'm going to put a cut in it. And the next episode, we are going to start truly. So thank you for watching. And hope to see you once the actual gameplay commences. Bye bye.